Everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 94 for the week of September 20th, 2020. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined by Will. What's up, Vampire Lord?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's getting colder. It feels like fall now.
We've been sleeping with the windows open for, basically since like May, April, right?
Brave.
And we try not to use the air conditioner unless it's absolutely necessary. So it hasn't been a constant thing. Like, we'll close it for AC. But long story short is it hasn't been cold enough to keep them closed until, like, I think today. And we had we had the windows open overnight. I woke up. I was absolutely frigid. And, I said to Nikki, I'm like, we should turn the heat on. We should turn the heat on.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't need the heat. But meanwhile, she's wearing like 3 robes. 4 pairs of socks.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
So we turn the heat on.
Yeah.
Just to take the chill off the house. Actually, I could turn it down. Hold on a second. I can do that on my phone.
Nice. Aren't you special?
Get a Nest.
That's a Nest?
Yeah, shit's awesome, man.
So it's just like a temperature control for your house that you control on the go?
Yeah, it's a regular thermostat, or it operates like a regular thermostat, but it's also connects to your Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can load it up on the website, or I can load it up on my phone. There's an app you can download. So I just lowered the temperature from here, even though my thermostat is in my living room, which is down the hall, right? And the cool thing is it learns your habits. It learns your heating system, how long it takes to heat your house. So you can do some really neat stuff with it. Like, for example, let's say you want it to be 70 degrees at 7 a.m., right? It'll spend about a week or two trying to figure out what that will take. And then if that means starting your heating system at 6:38, then it will turn it on at 6:38 so that by the time you wake up, it is 70 degrees at 7 a.m.
That's pretty cool.
On the flip side, you could set it to operate on a complete schedule and just have it turn on at 7 a.m. and heat up to whatever temperature you want and then turn off. So we had it scheduled, like I was working overnights last winter. So I would have the Nest turn on when Nikki woke up, warm up the house a little bit, then turn back off because I was still sleeping. And then it would turn back on again when I would get up. It's pretty cool shit, man.
That is
saves
pretty cool.
Money, saves oil. Love it.
It really is amazing. It reminds me of products like Ring and all of these different products for the house now that are just controlled with your phone. I think I did see that with with quite a few other people. I should say more than a few, but I feel like the technology was definitely going in that direction when the iPhone first came out. Like when they were releasing apps and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, down the road, this is going to take off and it's going to start controlling. You're going to end up using your phone as like a remote for your life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can say a voice command to my my Google Home and it will, turn the heat on or off or whatever automatically.
Yeah.
It's
That's
awesome.
really cool.
We live in the future and it's incredible and dangerous at the same time.
100%. I think a lot of people felt that this morning too. They're like, wow, it's cold. We need to put the heat on. Or even like last night, like you could definitely feel it. It's more than a chill. It was like actually cold.
But if you take out your air conditioners, it's going to be like 80 degrees for 5 days in a row.
Yeah, this is such a weird turning point every year that happens to us in Connecticut, I feel, where people sometimes will take the units out too early. And then, last week of September, it's hot as shit. Or sometimes even first week of October, it can still be like really warm. It's just very unpredictable. When it turns from summer to fall, it's always it's never seamless here.
It never is. You're absolutely right. Well, anyway, folks, thanks for downloading the Home Automation Podcast. We are
home shit.
You can find us on the web at www.wdgrpodcast.com. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WDGRPodcast. You can find me at Science Storm. Will, how can they find you?
Will_gear at SoundCloud.com.
SoundCloud.com/Will_gear. Check it out. You You got a couple new tracks up there. I listened to them before we started recording. Great stuff as always, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, it's becoming a tremendous amount of fun.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So how is the vampire lording going anyway?
It's going quite well. I played a little bit on Friday for actually a short while because my eyes were just killing me. I think that's when I was doing some music. So by the time I got over to it, my eyes were just shot. And then, of course, my controller was dead again, so I had to sit super close, Sayonara Wild Heart style. And yeah, I played for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm just too tired. But I loaded it up, and surprisingly, I remembered what I was doing. It's been quite a while since I played it. I'm at a place called the Forgotten Vale, which is a location in Dawnguard, which is one of the DLCs where it's basically the whole vampire DLC for the game. And I had to kind of get my bearings again, figure out how to even just control the game. And once I got all that down, I was finishing up a quest. I ended up getting lost quite a bit, which is not really typical of me in Skyrim. It's hard to get lost because there's that arrow marker at the top that always tells you where to go. But there are times where you could be stuck in a dungeon and you just don't know how to get out or how to get to the, destination. So
right.
I think I did have to go on YouTube actually to look up how to get to this particular marker. And turns out I wasn't the only one. Like, everybody in the comments was like, "Oh my God, dude, thanks so much for making this video. I was stuck on this level for 6 hours. And I'm like, damn, I don't think I would ever wait 6 hours before looking something up. So did that, got out, finished up the quest, fought a boss in like a really chicken shit way.
What'd you do?
Well, he was really difficult, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to be able to melt this dude even as a vampire lord. So once I was in my vampire lord form, I was hiding behind this like little like gazebo type thing. And as he was like circling around it, I was circling the opposite way. So I just kept like running away from him around in circles. And I had to do that because when you're a vampire, if your magicka gets drained, as far as I know, you have to wait for it to regenerate. And it regenerates so slowly because you're in sunlight, which I believe makes it regenerate way slower. So I'm just going around in circles. I'm like, oh my God, dude, every time I would have just enough magicka to perform another soul drain attack, I would hit him with one, and then I'd have to wait again and dance around. And it was like kind of nerve-wracking because he was quick and kind of sneaky too. So like if I fucked up slightly and I kind of tripped on something, he would like hit me with another lightning attack, which it's just super dangerous on your health. So played that game for a while, finally beat him, and then I moved on to a final quest, or yeah, I guess like a final quest within that quest. And fought this other vampire lord, which was kind of cool. And that was in like a really cool like cathedral type setting. So that was very like Vampire Hunter D-esque, which is super cool because I love that film. And after that, I ended up trekking my way back to, I think it's Lakeview Manor, which is your house that you can build with the Hearthfire DLC. Okay. And realized that I had a few materials to build a few small tables in the house, like a little dining room table. Sat down, I read a book inside of there. And it's really cool because you have a crafting table, which allows you to build like a library, an atriary, like all these different things, additions that you can add onto the house. It's really expansive. So right now I'm trying to get some iron ingots so I can build my library and get the materials I need to build it.
I didn't realize there was like this building component in the game.
Oh yeah. There's so much of Skyrim that I'm still learning. Like I know you can get married, you can have kids. I haven't even explored that, and I'm pretty sure that was available in like the vanilla game. It may be something with Hearthfire. I'm not too sure. Anybody listening to this episode, feel free to let me know. But yeah, Hearthfire is really cool. So it's Hearthfire, you have Dawnguard, and then you have Dragonborn. Those are the 3 DLCs that came out for the game.
Okay.
And it's just funny because like all this stuff came out forever ago. Like I want to say it was either 2011 or 2012 that I think all of those came out. And I think I never got them. Like, I think I just played the vanilla Skyrim. I beat the main quest or the main story, played a shit ton of the side quests, probably nearly all of them, and ended up clocking in around, I don't know, I think like 120 hours maybe for the entire game. But it's just funny how I'm playing it in 2020 and I'm playing DLCs that most people probably played back in 2012. So it's interesting, but I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, go at your own pace. Who cares?
No, I don't give a shit. I mean, there are people playing Vagrant Story, on Twitch right now, which is a PS1 title.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say, that's an oldie.
yeah, so, I think sometimes people forget that there is a middle ground. You don't have to play something super new or super old. You can play something that maybe came out 5-6 years ago, and that's okay too. So
I agree.
I just find that sometimes there's not always that basis where somebody's playing a game that's like relatively old. It's either super old or it's something super new. That's just my take.
Yeah. There's a lot of games that came out even on like the 360 and PS3 that I would love to just go back and revisit. It's a huge back catalog.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking over at the shelf right now and it's just like, play me, Drew. Play me.
Yeah,
it's not enough time.
It's tempting, man. Like even watching like a stream on Xenogears or Vagrant Story, like all these old RPGs that I want to play for PS1. It's tempting sometimes to just do it. But look what happened with Final Fantasy Tactics. I bought it, I loaded it, I quit out of it, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, all right, it works. I'll get to this.
Well, the other thing too is like you're looking at all those RPGs, and most of them, even back then, your minimum of a 40-hour investment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough when you buy a game that you picked up on a discount and you shelve, or you spend the $60 on a brand new game. It's like, which one are you going to play? And there's always this incentive to want to play something that's a little bit newer, because then you can be part of the conversation as you're playing it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a really tricky balance, and something that I struggle with on a regular basis. Plus, you and I, we have limited time to play as it is. So that's a whole nother factor.
It is tricky because, if you were to pick up a super old game, sure, you could probably talk about it with maybe a couple people, but it is a lot more satisfying sometimes when you're playing a brand new game that everyone else is playing. Right. You get that chance to be like, where are you, or how's it going for you with this or whatever. And sure, it can open up some spoiler issues, but it sometimes just feels right.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
But yeah, I'm glad I've gone back. Like you said, I think it's my sort of escape game, and it's a comfort game for me. It's like putting on like a gravity blanket and
nice.
Just kind of going to town.
Very cool, man. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Glad to hear you're playing it too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's I'm glad I pulled the trigger again.
I picked up that Super Mario 3D All-Stars, got that in the mail on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't have a ton of experience with Mario games in general, but the 3D games are kind of a big gap in my play history. I do have a copy of Sunshine. I do have a copy of Galaxy. And I didn't have a copy of Mario 64 on the N64 until very, very recently. But Mario and I have always kind of had a bit of a misunderstanding between each other, I want to say.
Similar to Zelda, maybe?
Yeah, it's like I appreciate the games for what they are, but it just never really felt like they were for me. So a big part of my dislike for Mario 64, or a big part of my reasoning for not playing it, is the N64 controller is just hot garbage. And finally, when they announced the 3D All-Stars, and more specifically, when they announced it was going to be sold only until March, I was like, fuck it, I'm buying it. And I did, and it came in on Friday, and I've been playing it pretty casually. I've only done Mario 64 up to this point. I wanted to say that the controls are better on the Nintendo Switch, but I really don't feel like they are. And like, I've been kind of vocal about this on a couple spots, most notably in our Discord and a couple other Discords as well too. I get a lot of pushback for it because, it's a pretty historic game. Mario 64 is one of the first 3D platformers that was ever made. It's probably considered one of the greatest ones that have ever been made as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're looking at it from the lens of when it was released, that's 100% accurate. But in 2020, when we have certain expectations of these games, it's a real tough pill to swallow if you don't have nostalgia associated with it.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
The camera on that game is really difficult to get around.
Yes.
And I'm finding that to be, I can't say it's game breaking, but it is incredibly frustrating. Because it's very difficult to see where you're jumping a lot of times, and you can move the camera to some degree, but you don't have a ton of control over where it's going. And once you start moving, it kind of tends to float back wherever it wants to anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of all that, you have your actual controls for Mario himself, which I feel like for the most part the platforming is good, but in tandem with the camera controls, it leaves a little bit of room to be desired for my taste. A lot of times I'll be jumping on something that I don't really have a good sense of where it is, so I find myself falling off of ledges quite frequently, or if I like the idea of jumping on an enemy really isn't practical because I'll either overshoot them or undershoot them most of the time. So I do find myself trying to like either avoid them entirely or I'll go up and punch them from behind if possible. And then you have those stages where you have the flowers that eat you. I can't think of their names because I'm a bad video game podcast host. But it's, the flowers are asleep and then you can sneak up to them and punch them and they'll drop a blue coin. But the analog stick on this, I don't know if it's the Switch or if it was like this in the original. The analog stick is so sensitive and it is incredibly tough to get a sense of how fast or how much I need to push the stick so I could just walk.
You know what?
I feel like, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I feel like this might be a valid point. You know what it is as you're describing this, I think it could be an issue with, and you're not going to want to hear this, but a lot of those games were engineered for that controller, and that analog stick is definitely taller and has, I think, more range than the Switch stick.
It does, and you're probably right, especially considering that from everything that I've read, these games are essentially running on emulation.
Mm-hmm.
So, they modified some of the instructional text to reflect the different buttons that the controller has versus the original one. But outside of that, I'm pretty sure it's just emulated.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to imagine that a control issue like that wouldn't really be updated.
Probably not. Something probably got lost in the mix there.
Now, I know there's quite a few people that are listening to the show that are big fans of the game. So please let me know if we're on point with this or if I just suck. I'm sure. I have a feeling it's probably a little of both, mostly the second one. But I got a few coins. I got like 6 or 7 coins or stars or whatever the hell they are.
Stars, yeah.
And it's an interesting window into something that I missed when I was a child. And I'm not going to say that I'm not enjoying it, but I do find myself walking away frustrated from time to time just because I am so bad at the game.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, I want to say the golden years of Mario 64 was what, 96, 97?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, let's verify that.
Let's see here. Super Mario 64. Let's see. Japanese release was 96. 96 for North America as well.
Okay. Yeah, I remember sitting at a cafeteria table in middle school, with kids saying like how many stars you get. So, I mean, talk about ancient.
Yeah. And aren't there like 120 stars in the game that you could potentially get?
Something like that.
Like, that's just mind-blowing. And then we got, fucking son of a Finch over here. He's like, 5 hours later, I beat it. Like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like, he just drops in on Saturday morning. Yep, just beat Mario 64. Okay, you suck.
Yeah, you just got done, like, rage quitting the game, like, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, and then last night he has the audacity to tell us that he beat Sunshine as well, too. It's like,
God.
I haven't even started that yet.
Yeah, that's commitment and love right there.
But... I'm going to try to beat it. I think it's important for somebody who considers himself to be a bit of a retro game historian to finish that game. I need to beat Mario 64. I don't know if I have to get 120 stars yet. Maybe after I finish the game, I'll kind of take a look and see how difficult it is to get some of those. But
I gotta have Jimmy watch that Departed clip so I can start calling him Jimmy Bags. Yeah, hey, it's Jimmy Bags.
Oh God,
he's gonna appreciate that. Love you, Jimmy.
Oh man, poor Jimmy.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so let's move on, man. Our main topic of today is a bombshell. Woke up this morning to find out Microsoft has purchased Bethesda.
That is
or specifically. They have purchased ZeniMax, which is the parent company of Bethesda.
Yes. I don't know what to think about this, and I'm going to tell you why in a super short sentence. I don't know a lot about ZeniMax besides the fact that they were the creators of ESO, which is Tom's favorite game, Elder Scrolls Online. That's all I know.
Well, all right. ZeniMax Media... This is from their Wikipedia page. They own id Software.
They do.
They own Arcane Studios. They own Machine Games. So id is developer of Doom, Quake. Everybody pretty much knows them. Arcane is a developer of Dishonored and Prey. Machine Games is a developer of the Wolfenstein series. Tango Gameworks is a developer of The Evil Within. And then Bethesda is the publisher, along with the studios, the game studios, who developed Elder Scrolls and Fallout. And ZeniMax Online is the developer of Elder Scrolls Online. This is a large umbrella. And Microsoft bought them for $7.5 billion.
Jesus.
There are a significant number of major franchises that Microsoft owns. And if you go on their press release, the biggest ones are front and center at the top of the page. There's a new game called Starfield, which I don't believe is out yet. I'm not 100% on that. Evil Within, Prey, which, unfortunately there's only one Prey game as of yet that I'm aware of. Fallout is massive. Doom, massive. Elder Scrolls, massive. Wolfenstein, massive. Even Dishonored is a pretty big IP. And from what I can tell, those games, any game that is produced by Bethesda and their studios, is going to be on Game Pass day one.
Okay.
They are swinging for the fences with this new Xbox.
They are, man. I've got to hand it to them. They are really working very hard and succeeding, it seems, already with creating a sort of laundry list of incentives for a gamer to buy this system. They're working on okay, we have a powerful system, but we've got a lot of features. We got a lot of features and benefits that we want to give you guys. And PlayStation, sure, powerful system, great showcase, laundry list of good titles that are coming, but we haven't heard much else.
Yeah.
So that's where I think Microsoft may be leading the competition here.
Yep. So, I mean, as of right now, they've only entered into the agreement. It won't be finalized until sometime next year. They're saying second half of 2021's fiscal year. So there is some time for this to fall through. But if they've entered into an agreement, that means that they're on the legal pathway to making this official, right? You can't back out of an agreement like this unless there's some kind of a lawsuit involved.
Yeah.
So It's really unclear right now what is going to happen in the future. There's a lot of speculation that some of these franchises will now become Xbox exclusives. And I mean, when you say Xbox exclusive, you really do need to include the PC at this point too, because they're kind of branding the two as the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that? How do you feel about the potential of the next Elder Scrolls game not appearing on a PS5?
Woof. I don't know, man. I mean, let's just say this, like if the Elder Scrolls 6, which is a title that a lot of folks are looking forward to, including myself, if that became a Microsoft exclusive and it was PC or Xbox Series S or X, then it would be a move, for me. I'd have to get the console or I'd have to get it on PC, and that wouldn't be possible without buying a PC. So
Right.
I'd probably have to get an Xbox at that point. But
it would certainly be cheaper for you too.
It would be cheaper.
Than building a rig that can run that game.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would be an S or X. That would just be a decision that I'd make at a later time. But I don't know if I'd be too mad about it, because I'd probably be a little salty about it at first. But I think by then, because we all know that the Elder Scrolls 6 is probably not coming out for another 14 years. By then, there's probably going to be a really nice pack library for me to choose from if I had to get an Xbox. So
yeah,
it's not a terrible thing. I mean, I think I need time to digest it, because I think it's an interesting acquisition, one that I think a lot of folks maybe didn't see coming. And I mean, like you said, they're swinging for the fences, and it seems like they're just kind of doing whatever they can to really just strong arm this particular console generation.
Well, the biggest complaint that most people had with the Xbox One was a lack of exclusive games. There wasn't a ton of reasons for anybody to own an Xbox One outside of Halo, Gears of War, Ori and the Blind Forest, which eventually came to the Nintendo Switch anyway. There might be a couple other games as well too. Sea of Thieves, I think, and a handful of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of the people that I've spoken to, pretty consistently across the board, even ones that own both systems, are just like, my PlayStation just has better games. And they always cite the exclusives for that. It's the multi-platform games never come into the equation. So I think Microsoft has put them in a position to take a huge slice of those multi-platform games out of the equation if they decide to go exclusive with these Bethesda titles. And I'm kind of torn, because to me, I feel like a big part of having exclusives on your system is developing brand new intellectual properties that are associated with your platform versus just buying existing IPs and hoarding them for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ori and the Blind Forest is a good example. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, right? Those are games that were developed in-house by Microsoft, and they have kind of become synonymous with the Xbox platform. Gears of War is another good example. Halo is probably the biggest example I could think of. So when I say to myself, I think Microsoft needs more exclusives for their Xbox, I'm thinking they need to come up with some more intellectual properties that are going to make them stand out from Sony, very much in the same way that Sony has Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, even Spider-Man, which, kind of falls into a bit of a gray area, but
well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, overall, just to kind of, build on that point, it seems like this generation, it seems like they're actually listening a little bit more this time. Both sides, PlayStation, Xbox, they're both trying to, I mean, like I said, it appears that they're listening to some of the complaints and some of the asks that we've been having for a long time now. And I'm glad to see it, even from Microsoft, because I don't hate on Microsoft. It just, like I said, I didn't ever feel like there was an incentive for me to buy a One. There was for the 360. For the One, it was just kind of like, this just feels like a slightly souped up 360 for me, but the games are not present. And this time, it's interesting to see that they're doing more. And I hope that they do have some really solid exclusives this time around.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly on the path. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out because, I mean, it's going to be a couple years, I think, before we truly see the effects of this purchase. You have a number of games that are in the middle of development already, some of which are confirmed to be PlayStation exclusives, right? So I have to imagine that those games are going to continue to be produced for as many platforms as they've already been promised for. And then it's kind of like, all right, when the next Doom game comes out or the next Fallout game comes out, are they going to do a timed release? You know, day one on Xbox and it comes out on the PlayStation and the Switch a year after, or, you know, or are they just going to be like, nope, this is ours and you can't have it?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I felt like I had like a sort of response to this, but I may have lost it.
Well, I mean, while you're thinking of it, like if Elder Scrolls is confirmed to be a timed release, and it takes them a year to get it from the Xbox to the PlayStation 5, is that still going to be enough for you to buy a Series S or an X?
I think
are you willing to wait that year?
That's a really good question because I think a year is not that bad of a wait. However, it can be if the game is exploding. You know, if everybody's got it, everybody's raving about it, you go online and you see a review and every review you look at is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. You're watching gameplay, you're watching trailers. It's hard to fight that. Right. It's really hard to fight that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know what, I'm just going to cross my legs and twiddle my thumbs and be patient for a year. Bullshit, dude. We all know as gamers that you're going to it doesn't take long. Sometimes it takes one trailer or it takes one person that you trust to say, dude, you have to play this now. Like, you cannot wait a year. Yeah. And even though, if it ends up being like a solo game, the way that Skyrim was, like a single player, still, you know, sometimes you still want to experience that with your friends because you want to be the way that we did it with Skyrim, where I would sit in a party with 5 other people, more or less in silence, and every 5 to 10 minutes you would hear oh shit, there's a dragon over here. Did you guys know that there's a dragon in Whiterun? It was those kind of conversations, and it would just be, it was special because you were all sharing these moments together in a party. So if that were to happen with ES6 on the Xbox One Series X, I might have to do it because if there's going to be that sort of camaraderie again, I want to be a part of that magic.
So here's a tweet from Jason Schreier, who both of us have talked about in the past, well-respected journalist in the industry. To answer the question everyone is asking, Phil Spencer tells Dinabase that Xbox plans to honor the PS5 exclusivity commitment for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Future Bethesda games will be on Xbox, PC, and, quote, other consoles on a case-by-case basis. It's interesting.
That is interesting. The power of tweets, man. Even though I'm not on social anymore, sometimes I'll still see them on a website. And it's still what I believe is a very good social platform to be on for gaming news, because the way that it's distributed is just so much more direct sometimes versus just, going to your typical game site. And that's one thing I do kind of miss about being on Twitter is the people that I followed, I got most of my game news just from that.
Yeah. There are quite a few heavy hitters that Microsoft owns now. A lot of people are excited about the idea of Obsidian Entertainment getting their hands on the Fallout franchise. They are responsible for Fallout New Vegas. They've gone on to make Outer Worlds, which is a highly well-regarded Fallout-like game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of buzz about that, and just looking at the list of subsidiaries that Microsoft has with their game studios now, man, this is gearing up to be a fight.
It is, and what's interesting too is Bethesda, from what I've read and heard, is like they haven't been doing that well lately. Like ever since Skyrim and Fallout 3, I want to say. I want to say that after those games were released and their golden years kind of passed, Bethesda has been known to kind of go down this road of just making like not great games. And
Right.
I've seen YouTube videos on it. I've seen it in the community. I've heard people that I know personally talk about it. I want to say it was Fallout 4 that apparently did not get the best reception.
Yeah.
ESO is debatable because it wasn't truly Bethesda. Yeah, I think they need they needed a comeback, and that comeback needs to be ES6 or something else, or like a really solid Fallout game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Like I'm as a excuse me, as a fan of Microsoft and the Xbox platform, this is pretty exciting. I'm super excited to see where this leads.
It is exciting.
Yeah, even though a lot of these games, like I don't give a shit about Elder Scrolls. No offense, man. I know it's one of your favorites. It's not for me. It's not for me. But yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah,
cool.
It's very interesting. I've got to do more research on it, but I'm interested to see like where they're going to take this acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of information that's quite out yet, but we'll kind of keep our pulse on this, and if there's more to talk about in upcoming episodes, I think it's a great topic to revisit.
Agreed.
Let's see here. So the PlayStation 5 showcase dropped last Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. I think it was it was last Wednesday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time.
So they officially announced the on-sale date for the PS5.
They did.
The price for the PS5 and the actual release date of the PS5.
Yes.
And they were give me all right. There's a lot to dissect with Wednesday.
There is.
So where would you like to start?
Well, what I could do is like a brief synopsis on the showcase to start.
Okay.
Just kind of give you an idea, because you didn't watch it, right?
I have not seen the showcase. No, I just didn't have time, and I felt like I got enough of the information I needed from other people.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my version, and then I'm going to give you kind of what it was, right? So what I took away from it was there's a new Final Fantasy coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The main protagonist has a Karen haircut, and I believe it's Final Fantasy 16.
Okay.
It looks all right. We got a God of War teaser that I think sent chills up everybody's spine. That was awesome. Okay. We got a Demon's Souls trailer and gameplay demo, which we'll go into in a minute. We got pricing, like you said, and we got a release date. So ultimately, that's what I personally wanted to see. I'm going to leave out Final Fantasy because it was a takeaway because I think it was the first game that they showed. But ultimately, I got what I wanted for the most part out of the show in terms of the entire show for what it was. It's exactly what I said, but just more games. A lot of those games I felt like were not really anything to write home about. And again, that's kind of a personal opinion. Some of them were just offshoot kind of weird games. Other ones I can't even remember now. They didn't show any like heavy hitters. They didn't show like Horizon. I forget the Horizon crap. I don't remember the name of it now. The new one.
Frozen. No, not Frozen Wilds. Shit.
Damn. Yeah, we're gonna have to look this up.
Forbidden West.
Yeah, they didn't show anything like that. I think they showed like another like teaser of like what they showed before, just like a glimpse. Oh, and then Spider-Man. I think it was Spider-Man that they opened with, or that was second, and that's the Miles Morales. It does look very good. From a graphical perspective, it looks pretty stunning.
I think if you're ever to revisit a game on the PS4 that has been out for a little while, I don't think I can recommend a game more than Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, it looks extremely fun. Like I've said so many times before when you were actually playing it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is a blast, but it is awesome.
but it looked good. It actually made me think to myself, okay, either I want to play this or I want to play the first one. Like it sold me to an extent. It didn't sell me like 100% because I'm not really that kind of gamer. I'm not a big comic book guy. I don't really mess with those kind of games, but
no, neither am I.
Yeah, you know? But I would give it a fair chance. So that was good. Overall, man, like that was kind of it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was like really good. I'll say that much. It was really good. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and be like, oh my god, it was so amazing. It just wasn't for me. But I got what I wanted out of it, and the pricing, if I remember this correctly, it's $4.99 for the disc version, and then $3.99 for the digital version. Release date, again, I think is November 17th. I don't have this in my notes.
Release date. Man, what would you do without me?
I know.
November 12th.
November 12th. Okay. So, yeah. I would say that it's not something that was necessary to watch live. Like, even though I watched it live, it was... The most exciting thing for me was just seeing that Demon's Souls gameplay. Yeah. And then, of course, the God of War teaser that they dropped pretty much when the show ended. Like, they closed it out with that. And you just kind of see, like, snow particles moving across the screen. And then you can hear that sort of, like, Viking music, like the da-da-da, or whatever. And I was like, this has to be God of War. And you see this kind of, like, logo or symbol that's coming together. And it's written in... not Nordic. It's written in... Hey, stop it. Sorry, my cats are fighting.
It's okay.
It's written in... damn, man. I'm just, like, losing words. Hellblade.
Okay.
Hellblade was done in... it's a certain language or origin. We're going to have to Google this again.
I'm not even sure what to look for.
Okay, hang on.
Because I've never played it. Swedish?
No. Let me just...
It's probably Nordic.
Yeah, but it's... oh my fucking god. Sorry, just dealing with two cats and trying to look this up at the same time.
Not a problem.
All right, let's see here. Norse mythology.
Yep. So Nordic.
Yeah, I guess it is Nordic. So yeah, it's written in like a Nordic language or like text or whatever, and apparently a lot of people were able to figure out that it was Ragnarok, which is going to be the title of the sequel, I guess. And yeah, absolutely pumped for it. You've heard me talk about the first game enough. It's something that hopefully we'll get to either this year or next. And then we move on to the pre-order situation, which I don't know how you want to do this. I can just kind of roll into my grumblings, or we can talk about what happened.
Well, I think they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely a grumbling fiasco. So here's what happened. Like for folks that don't know, PlayStation apparently at the end of the show, more or less in not a great way, communicated through social, I believe. I don't think they even did it on the showcase, that they were going to start the pre-orders the following day. So that was the 17th, I think. Yeah, I think it was the 17th. Right. And that didn't go well. And the reason why is because I guess all these big box retailers decided to open up the floodgates the same night, pretty much right after the show, and even like snarkily tweeted about it too. Like I saw some, like Walmart was like, why wait when you could just do it now? Let's go, or something like that. And I was like, well, shit. And I remember going to bed because I was pretty tired at one point, and I think I was on Discord on my phone, which was unusual. Like I think I actually installed the app, and I was reading some stuff, and it sounded like a mess. Like I was reading that Joe tried to get one, and there was like checkout issues and all this crap. And I was like, you know what? This sounds like a disaster. I'm just going to wait till tomorrow. And I guess you could say it's a good thing that I didn't pull the trigger the night before because of the mess. But at the same time, I feel like I did miss out because the following day was even worse. Like you couldn't find anything. And here I was just thinking I could just casually go on Amazon and pre-order one. And it was just, everything was gone. Everything.
Yeah.
People got really lucky the night before and just somehow got their way in, but it was still a mess. It was not seamless. People were having cart issues, sites freezing, because apparently when the word got out, everybody and their mom decided to do it. And I was pretty salty about the next day because I really wanted to get it. And there was another release window that I think happened that night. I think it was at 6 o'clock that somebody sent me a link for Walmart.
Yeah,
and,
no, it was around 9 p.m. that one went live.
Yeah, and I remember I tuned in for that. I did the whole thing where I was like, okay, like let me get the site ready. Let me make sure I'm on 10 minutes before, and I'm gonna be just finger on the refresh button, ready to go. Yeah. And that didn't work because when I was on Walmart.com, they sold out in I think 1 minute or less, because there were articles and tweets and stuff that were coming out immediately after, probably maybe 10 minutes later, saying for anybody that tried for Walmart's second go at this, unless you had 30 seconds to get one, you're done.
Yep.
So from what I understand, there were bots involved. People were using bots. I don't really understand how that works, but I guess I do to an extent. And then the rest of it was just sheer luck. Yeah. So to cap this off, basically, Sony came out, I want to say the following day or maybe a couple days after, saying, okay, we apologize. They actually sent out pretty much a formal apology on social and just said, hey, we're going to try this properly. It didn't go as we expected, and we're hoping that we're going to get a good amount of waves of pre-orders to happen again before release. And then on release, we're hoping that people will be able to acquire the system fairly easily.
I remember sitting on Walmart's website at 9 p.m., the night after the fiasco, when those systems were supposed to go live. And when I went on the page, originally it said not yet available, and I kept refreshing, and it would say not yet available, not yet available, not yet available, sold out.
Mm-hmm.
There was never an in-between.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, too, that when I was on Walmart, as soon as they went live, I did have a chance to actually hit the button pre-order. It was a blue button, but anytime I hit it, it would just load. You would see, in your browser, I use Chrome, the little thing was just spinning on the top left.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not a good sign. This is not, because at that point, as an internet browser such as myself or anybody that's used to how the internet works, if that happens, it's usually not good. That means that it's struggling to load because everybody else is doing it. And the last thing you want to do is try and stop and refresh or go back in. Because once you're in, that's usually it. Sometimes if you close out and you try to get back in, forget about it. You can't even get the site to load. So I was in this position where I was fearful of what to do. And eventually I was like, fuck this. So I hit the stop button to stop it from refreshing. I refreshed it. It absolutely made it worse. So at that point I was just getting mad. And I'm like, all right, this isn't going to work. And then eventually I think I closed out the browser, reloaded it, went back to the Walmart.com. And sure enough, they were just completely gone. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to try again, I guess, tomorrow. And then I didn't. And I haven't tried since. So I think my position now is I'm going to wait until there's an official announcement from retailers or Sony where I can just buy this thing properly. Because
I really, really hope that tomorrow when the Xbox goes on sale that I don't have any of these types of issues, because it's just absurd.
It is absurd. And I think, for somebody like me and most people, I guess, no one really shops like this. I don't think I've ever pre-ordered anything in this fashion ever in my life. And it made me actually kind of concerned about how we consume products, because I was like, damn, man, people are just absolutely crazy about this right now. And I get it, it's exciting, we all want one, but if this is happening, then you've got people out there, man, that are just rabid to just consume something. And it just made me think for a second, you know what, this can't be that healthy to just be
oh, it's not.
Chug like a monster and then get ready at 8:58 because you're getting ready for a pre-order. That just doesn't sound right. especially when you're dropping $400 or $500 on something.
But
So,
I mean, the reality is most of the sales are going to bots. You know, they have these bots that run on computers that just scrape websites looking for inventory, and as soon as they have it, they have the whole checkout process like basically saved into their cache so they can check out and put their card information in and get the product sent out to them before you could even click add to cart.
yeah,
You're not playing a fair game, and then they're going to turn around and try to scalp them for twice the price.
Oh, dude, that's disgusting, man. Like, I think I ended up going on eBay after Dave said something, and I was like, I gotta see this, because he read or he shared something about how some guy got ripped off for some insane amount. It was like a cardboard PS5 or some shit, and I went on, and there was just like $700, $1,000, $25,000, and I was like, this is outrageous. Who in their right mind could do that? You know, I'm this guy that I used to mention earlier on the show, Retro and Rare. He used to get really like upset about that on his podcast. He'd be like, you know, fucking scumbag resellers, man. And I still think about when he said that, because that's exactly what they are. You're a scumbag. If you're gonna take a pre-order and then charge somebody like double the price, like F you, man. Like that, now you're just like playing into the whole game of like how disgusting consumerism can be.
It's terrible, man. It
really
is.
Because they know that they can make a buck, and they're probably going to make it because they're preying on the people that are like a little bit naive to certain things in life and are going to be like, you know, I want it, and I don't care how much I need to pay for it. I want it. And I want it is going to only get you so far in life. So those, you know, what was that? It was Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka, right? That was like, you know, I want it and I want it now. Like, I forget what it was that she was referring to, but it was, what was that? Yeah, she's like, I want my golden goose and I want it now.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of what this became. And, you know, when you sit there as like a responsible adult and you try to pre-order something properly and you can't help but go into that sort of cynical mindset where you're like, man, people are fucking animals. And then you just go to bed with your fucking fake candles and Netflix, and you're like, fuck this. You know, God damn it. I work a living. I pay my bills on time. I drink coconut water. I want a fucking PS5. You know, I don't run bots to buy shit, you know? So that's it, man.
I mean, those scumbags are operating on another level. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I almost feel, because like I fuck around with like Raspberry Pis and, you know, automating shit all the time as like a hobby, right? I almost feel like I need to find a way to run a bot just so I can actually secure one of these for myself. Not to resell it, but just so I could get one for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and if I can figure out how to run multiple ones, then like, I'd be like, hey, do you want one? You want one? You want one? Cool. I'll sell it to you for cost. You know, like here's what I paid. Here's what you pay. It's the same number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But ultimately, man, I think if I can get into a position where I can, like I said, pre-order one just normally and calmly, that would be great. If not, I will be probably at this point comfortable waiting until I can literally just order one offline after release.
Yeah.
Like just a straight up, you know, Amazon clean, you know, order, or just go into like a Best Buy, you know, and just like go to where they are, take a nice new box from the shelf, check out, and leave. That's generally how I buy all of my consoles, is I go to like a Best Buy, I physically buy one, and I go home and I make sure no one is around me while I unbox it. And Zach, if he still listens to the show, he knows about how much we joke around about privacy of unboxing something. If you have a friend there, you make them face the wall. So yeah, you know, it's.
I don't want to know what you're doing in that box.
Yeah. Only I want to see what's inside. Only my eyeballs need to enter that box.
That's
it's
what
funny.
Said.
Zach said something real funny. He was like, we were texting back and forth about, you know, this whole like privacy game with getting a new console, and he said something like, he's like, yeah, man, I don't want Walmart handling my PS5 off the jet. And I'm like, off the jet? And he's like, yeah, my private jet. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this has gone too far. But Yeah, man, that's what happens. I feel bad for the people like us that just want to simply get one responsibly and normally. But, don't, if you thought that it was not going to be a shit show, I guess you could say that's slightly naive, because if retailers are going to open up the floodgates like that, I mean, you should know that it was going to be a shit show. So I wasn't that surprised.
Microsoft is being pretty adamant that we will not have the same issue with pre-orders for their system.
And I hope not.
I hope not. We're recording this Monday night, the 21st. Pre-orders are scheduled to go on sale tomorrow, Tuesday, around 11 a.m. Eastern. And I intend on being online. I'm going to attempt to get one. I did successfully pre-order an Xbox One from Microsoft's store themselves. Mm-hmm. It was a fairly pleasant experience. I never had any issues. So I'm going to try with them, and I'm going to try with Best Buy. And, I'm not going to go crazy, because if I got to wait until next year to get one, I'll be disappointed, but it's not going to be the end of the world. I have so many games I can still play.
Yeah. And ultimately, just to kind of build on that piece, the launch titles, from what I can see for the system I want, which is obviously the PS5, at this stage, it's just Demon's Souls, which was kind of what we expected it to be. Right. And that's great, and the game looks great. But yeah, man, it's like one of my most respected streamers I follow. He was like, I'm not paying $500 for one game. Right. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I love that game more than anything, and I'm really excited to see what's going on with the remake, but I can wait, dude. If I had to wait until January or February, that's totally fine. I mean, the system comes out in November, for Christ's sake. Months, when you're an adult, months fly. So, it's when you're 14 that they don't. So, I'm fine waiting. Yeah.
I mean, there's, with the Xbox, there's not really going to be a lot that's, Series X exclusive. There's some games that are announced, to come out on November 10th. I think Gears Tactics is one of them. There's a new, Tetris Effect that's coming out as well, too.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, I mean, just looking at the list on GameStop's site, or GameSpot.com, it's like, cool. All right. Sure. I'm just buying the system because I want it.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it for any specific game. And the selling point for me is the ability to play the entire library I already have.
Yeah. So. I mean, the PS Plus package thing that they're doing, which is quite a handsome package that they're giving away for free, I think that's great. But, if we're being truly honest with ourselves, it's games that we've probably already played, or it's games that we already have. And are they going to look that much better? Probably not. They're probably going to have like just a slight little, touch up potentially, but that's still unknown. So all in all, man, I'm really just not that surprised. And I think I agree with a lot of us in Discord. I think everybody's being kind of cautiously optimistic about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is smart.
Well, we have some letters in our Discord mailbag as well, too, regarding this specific case, as well as a couple other things. So what do you say we talk about those real quick, and we'll call it a night, shall we?
I think it's a good idea.
All right, so we'll start with Joe Donuts, who also says he's cautiously optimistic. I am cautiously optimistic about the new consoles. PS4 and Xbox came in underpowered, especially before the mid-gen upgrades, but these new consoles are gigantic and packed with newer, exciting tech. I really want higher frame rates to become standardized. But for every Destiny 2 will be 60 frames per second, there is a, quote, Spider-Man will let you choose between 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. I have memories of going to arcades as a kid in the 90s, and every 3D game from Virtua Cop to Tekken and Soul Blade was blazing along at 60 frames per second. It's a weirdly unforgettable thing, and it blows my mind that consoles have changed so little since then that 60 frames per second is still so shocking to see today.
That is a really good point. I actually don't think I was even aware that Virtua Cop and Tekken and Soul Blade were 60 FPS.
I don't know enough about the arcade versions of those games to say.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's those games are running on dedicated arcade boards. Yes, they're 20 years old at this point, but I think it's different than when you're trying to take a console that can multitask and handle multiple games versus something that's dedicated to run specifically one solitary thing.
Mm-hmm.
But all that said, if I'm not mistaken, the Series X is going to be capable of doing 120 frames per second if the TV supports it and if the game supports it. So,
well, I think Joe's with me on this clearly because I'm kind of with him, in regards to this sort of weird frustration that I think some of us have where we just want 4K 60 or we want games that are just running natively at what they're supposed to be running at. Like, I think we've obviously been let down by studios and game developers so many times where they're like, okay, this game's 1080p or it's 4K or whatever, and then you find out there's always a catch.
right.
It's either like, yeah, but it's 30 FPS, or it's not native, or it's only during this sequence or whatever. Like, I think we're at a stage now where we just want 4K 60 everything.
Yeah.
We just want amazing native graphics through the gameplay.
Right.
And I think that's really kind of echoing what Joe's saying here is like, it seems sometimes unfathomable that they can't seem to pull that off.
Right.
And then you find out there are games like, I remember back, I think on the PS3 days, you would look up like what games were actually native 1080p, and it was just a bunch of shit like Geometry Wars and like Flower and just like all these other games that were just really obscure and just not really high graphical games. And you were like, all right, that's cool, but like, I'm not playing, like, I don't want to play fucking Resogun anymore on the PS4, goddammit. Like, okay, it's native at 1080p, that's great. It's fun, but I want to play like a God of War that is at 4K 60 at this point. It's a $500 system. It's 2020. We're moving into 2021. Technology is absolutely tremendously amazing. Just give us really smooth native graphics.
Yep.
That hold. Rant over.
No, I don't have anything to add to that, but I agree with it wholeheartedly.
And I feel like, some might say, okay, Will's being a little selfish or demanding. I don't know, man.
How?
I don't know if I am, because I always like to, excuse me, I always like to take that humble approach and always kind of check myself first. Hold on, water.
Yep. He's so angry he needs water, folks.
I am.
I'm not editing any of this.
Please don't. All right. But yeah, I don't think it's being too demanding. To Joe's point, with some of those older games and games that I've played before that are at 1080p 60,
Right.
it just seems kind of preposterous at this point to deliver these amazing systems with these amazing specs. Mark Cerny, let's see it then. Blow us out of the water. Like, the past generation and the current generation were not a massive difference. Right now, we need something massive.
Yeah.
And think about it. Whenever a trailer comes out, a lot of us are just like, yeah, it looks good. But
right.
It's like those very few trailers that we're always concerned about that it's never going to come out. Those are the ones that look fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't ever come out. They're like, demoed on a PC or something. But that's what we want. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. 100%. Let's see here. Raffy Fat Fingers is pissed. He says, I think it's outright ridiculous that the PlayStation worldwide marketing head, Eric Lempel, said we would get plenty of notice for pre-orders, and instead they went live 3 or so hours after the first announcement. Even taking into account the retailers jumping the gun, their announcement of pre-orders being live the next day is really obscure and could have meant midnight, which on the East Coast was approximately only 7 hours of notice. I just don't understand. Does anyone think they got more pre-orders because of this? Do they think it's creating a bigger marketing buzz? Not in my opinion. If they gave people real notice, like Xbox did, they would have been sold out as quickly with less negative emotions. And this is coming from someone who snagged 2 PS5s that first night. Shame. Show your customers some respect.
I actually haven't read this until just now. Oh,
Hopefully my inflection gave it some juice.
yeah, no, it definitely did. Thanks. Sorry, Mars is driving me crazy here. He's like, Daddy, will you please hurry up? Yeah,
we're almost done, Mars, I swear.
Yeah, he's probably getting hungry. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Raph. I think obviously this piggybacks on the whole shit show of everything that happened. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of like when people don't mute their mic at work, like on a conference call. You know, that shit, like you can't even, the reason why I bring that up is because it seems so simple, right? Like it's the simple things that sometimes just get sort of dropped carelessly. And I think in today's day and age, you know, if we can't get a pre-order right, and then there's like this weird like apology that's just like done through a screen, I don't know, man. They need to get it together next time. Unfortunately, that next time's not going to be for a while, but at the same time, they still have a chance to really deliver with making this next round better. But yeah, sometimes when you have moments like this, it's just really, you lose like hope for mankind. You're like, why is it so difficult to just get a pre-order done correctly, know how many units you're going to be able to, you know, get out there and do it right? You know, talk to the retailers. I don't know, man. I don't know enough about like how it all works to really speak on it intelligently, but I just feel like it's, I just feel like the whole thing could have been handled way, way better.
100%. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Excuse me. Let's see here. Son of a Bitch says, my only concern about next gen was being able to keep my PS Plus titles over to the next gen, which it looks like it should be okay, but I'll definitely be trading in my PS4 Pro for the PS5. I don't know how close to launch, but probably early. I want to play Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and maybe even Demon's Souls, literally just because it has no right looking as good as it does. Unless there's any decent Microsoft exclusives coming soon, I might throw the Xbox One in there to trade too and switch over just to Game Pass for PC. I know I just got it, but it wasn't getting the use out of it that I thought it would be getting. Well, so he wrote this last night before Bethesda's announcement about the sale was made. So I don't know if that changes anything. But yeah, I mean, like that's kind of been the general gist of what I've been getting from a lot of people that are multi-platform owners. Like it's just been basically, you know, I have a PlayStation 4, I have an Xbox. The Xbox has been a disappointment. And most of the people that I've spoken to up to today have been like 110% PS5. I wonder if, you know, this Bethesda announcement changes anything for some people. You know, there's a lot of people that are very passionate about games like Elder Scrolls, but as we said before, I just don't think we have enough information yet as to how it's really going to affect the PlayStation owner.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. The more I meditate on the whole PS5 thing, it's funny how with the showcase, it seems like it's just kind of Spider-Man and a game that came out in 2009 that's selling the system right now.
It is. It is.
Which is really miraculous.
But I still feel like that's two more games than Xbox has.
Yeah.
You know, Xbox is really selling the experience of their Game Pass. I'm going to go off on a very short tangent here. And this is the thing I think bothers me the most, because people have been just saying for months and months and years even, Xbox doesn't have any exclusives. Xbox doesn't have anything that I want out of a system. They don't offer enough. And they are just like, fucking Microsoft is hitting home runs out of the park as far as I'm concerned with everything that they're doing with the xCloud, everything that they're doing with Game Pass, the two systems that they're releasing, the price points of the systems, the fact that they're bringing over all this backwards compatibility, that they're unifying the Xbox brand under one giant umbrella so that you can play your shit on any system. Like, there's no reason for me to sell my Xbox One X because I could just move it to a different TV and play on the same games on two fucking TVs with two different like graphical experiences based on which one I'm using. And still people are like, yeah, I think I'm going to get a PS5. Like, what the fuck do these guys have to do?
Yeah, I know.
What do they have to do? They just dropped $7.5 billion on Bethesda. EA games are coming to Game Pass on day one. Like, I mean, do you want them to come to your house, give you a system, and suck your dick?
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry, not safe for work.
yeah, no, that's definitely a tangent. All right, you had it in your voice.
I just don't understand. Like
I think
go on.
it's what it is that's just consumerism at its finest. You know, sometimes you put out something that's bright and flashy, and people want it. And sometimes, you know, if you have another bright and flashy thing right next to it that has more, because they saw something first or they have the impression of something else, because maybe everybody else wants that other one, then that is a very powerful thing. And I think that's kind of going back to what I said about Spider-Man and Demon Souls. Like, I feel like it's like two games that are selling the system right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, you can delve deeper and say, okay, like, it seems like the digital version and the physical are not much different, which I know a lot of people kind of raved about. Whereas, like, the Xbox Series S, I believe, is just a little bit weaker. Am I correct about
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as powerful of a system. There are going to be concessions, but it's not intended to be on par. Like, they're making it very clear that there are notable differences between the two.
Yeah.
And that's why they're able to sell it for $299.
Yeah. So I don't, and the thing is like, even though that's a difference between them, that's not what it is. That's not what is causing people to go that direction.
Right, right.
So I just think it's,
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting, you know, people's mindset, and we're at such an interesting time in the process too, that I don't know how to kind of, you know, pull a consensus on where people are, you know, getting these decisions from.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, I'm an Xbox fanboy. I will admit that wholeheartedly. I've been on board with them since the original system. I've stuck with them through thick and thin. I get more use out of my Xbox than any other system that I own, despite the fact that there are so many exclusives on the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not disparaging any of the exclusives that are on the PlayStation system, because those games are great, and I acknowledge their greatness, and I acknowledge that the PlayStation 4 has had better success with their exclusives and just put out better games than the Xbox has with their exclusives. But I can't tell you how many games that I have played on that Game Pass that I never would have even touched if they weren't at my disposal.
Mm-hmm.
And as a gamer, it is incredibly rewarding to just be like, you know, I don't know what I want to play today. Let me see what's available.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have it download so quickly, it's yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Vortex says, I'm not really excited for either at this point in time. I have a One X that I'm happy with. I'll probably end up with a new Xbox at some point because I can play all my games on it. PS5 doesn't really interest me at this point, but I might buy one later if there's something that really makes me interested.
Mm.
You know, I am going to buy a PS5.
Mm-hmm.
I have no intention of not getting one. It might take me a couple years to get there, but that's fine. Like, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Because I want to
totally
play, I want to play Horizon. I want to play Miles Morales. I want to play God of War. And I will play those games on the PS5. But I'm not buying a PS5 based on two games that I can't wait to play.
Yeah, exactly. You know, here's the thing. If it was Metal Gear Solid 6 or Asura's Wrath 2, obviously, I'm going to be getting that thing day one.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But that's not happening. Right. And, you know, you have to look at it that way. And I really appreciate Vic, because you can always rely on Vic for just sheer honesty. And, you know, he kind of puts you in check sometimes, because when you read things like that, you realize, okay, I mean, that's what I felt the whole time. But, of course, you were the child within us, you know, wants to say, I want one. So...
Well, you know, for him, I don't think there's a reason for him to upgrade, because the games that he does play, he's already playing.
Yeah.
You know, and the reality is, you know, despite what I was ranting about, Xbox doesn't have anything new that they're bringing to the table that you can't play on the One X.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I recognize that. I realize that. I'm not saying that they aren't, but I just get frustrated at everybody that's like, yeah, you know, well, Xbox is all doing all this great shit, but nah.
You have to be real about it too, because we all know that generally when a new system comes out, there are like bugs. Sometimes there's like issues like downloading something. I doubt that it's going to be seamless. Like, I doubt, like, you know, when it comes out that day, that night, when everybody gets home and they hook it up, I guarantee there's going to be some issues. There's going to be like a weird update that takes forever, or there's going to be something.
Oh, sure.
There just typically always is. And with the mess of the pre-order situation, and even hearing about like Amazon not shipping out pre-orders right away, I just, at this point, I'm ready for anything. And sometimes it's best to avoid that. You avoid the sort of launch issues. My buddy Miles, who I still think listens to the show, he said that when I asked him. He's like, I'm not worried about it because I don't want to get caught up in the launch like fiascos. Yeah, and it's just because he's aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, that part I'm not too concerned with, because it works itself out.
Yeah, it always does. I mean, God forbid you have to wait a couple days for them to drop a patch or something. It's usually fairly, quickly fixed, but
exactly.
But yeah.
So off the topic of the PS5 and the Xbox One, we do have a couple other questions here. Patrick from Retrospective's podcast asks, how hyped are you for the Dune movie? I am at a 10 out of 10. If it was any other director, I'd be skeptical, but Denis Villeneuve has an astonishingly good track record. Have you seen the trailer for the new Dune movie?
I have not, but I can say...
it's up your alley, bro.
Okay, I'll check it out. I do like the actor that is in it, or one of the actors. He played in a movie called The King, I believe, on Netflix.
Okay.
He's I think he's a French actor, younger guy, but I know he's in it, and I recognized his face, and I was like, oh, he was really good in The King. Yeah. So that kind of sold me, but I'm not familiar with Dune.
Okay.
So I can't, it's not like when it hit, I was like, oh my God, there's a Dune movie. I was just like, oh, I know about this, but I'm not a fan yet.
I'm pretty stoked. It's going to be awesome. I don't have a ton of experience with the franchise as a whole. The novel is on my list of things to read at some point. I haven't gotten to it, even though I have a copy sitting on my shelf in my living room. It is a large book, and it is daunting. And the original movie I haven't seen in so long that I remember nothing about it. I need to go back and watch it. But that said, Denis Villeneuve has a incredible track record. He is the director of some of my favorite films, including Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, both of which I really enjoyed. But he's been directing movies for a long time. He did Sicario. He did, or is it Sicario? Sicario, I think.
I think so. Is that with, what's his face? Oh, man. Benicio.
Benicio del Toro's in it, Josh Brolin. I've never seen that film, but I hear it's great. So I mean, like, if you look at his pedigree or his lineup of movies that he's done, this is a good guy. And Blade Runner 2049 was tremendous. I mean, really well done film. It fit the Blade Runner universe amazingly well. Brought it to the 2010s. I think it came out in 2017. So, it modernized it, but still kept the feel and the vibe of the original, which I think was super important.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then Pucksaur says, I finally have a TurboGrafx 16 Mini at home and have done some gaming. Walk me through your favorite titles. Will, what would you recommend?
Oh my God.
I'm just being a dick.
Yeah, that's I literally, my mind just turns off.
Yeah, so I mean, like, really, it'd probably be easier for me to tell you which games to avoid at this point, Pucks, because there's some really strong titles on here. I think every TurboGrafx owner has to play Splatterhouse and needs to play both Bonk's Revenge and Bonk's Adventure, which would be the first game. The tricky thing with the TurboGrafx Mini is the way they split the games into both American and Japanese releases, and some of them are kind of in two different spots. Some of them are just duplicates of games that are in English or Japanese. So if you want to play the original Bonk, you have to go over to the Japanese side, and it's called PC Genjin, which is a bit of a play on PC Engine, which is a Japanese name. And then in the American, Bonk's Revenge would be the sequel. Lords of Thunder is widely regarded as one of the best shooters to come out on the Turbo Duo. I can definitely recommend that. Also along those lines, you have Air Zonk, which is a great game. Blazing Lasers is a fantastic shmup. R-Type, that's one of the best versions of R-Types ever released on console. If you want a strategy game, Military Madness is like the grandfather of most strategy games. So check that out. That's worth your time. Alien Crush is a fantastic pinball game, which is kind of weird to say, but they did a great job with it. Ninja Spirit is one of my favorite platformers. It is based off of an arcade game of the same name. It is very difficult, but is quite good. And then you have some RPGs. Newtopia 1 and 2 are kind of like Zelda clones, but they're really well done. So check those out for sure. Kadash is a little grindy and very abusive, but I think it's worth checking out. I think that's a pretty good game. Dungeon Explorer is fun. Another kind of Zelda-like game. Let's see here. There is a copy of Ninja Gaiden in here for the PC Engine side. I believe they're calling it Ninja Ryukenden. Ninja Ryukenden, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see that on the PC Engine. It does not play quite the same as the NES version, but it's just it's an interesting capture or interesting moment in time to kind of take a look at. Let's see here. The Bomberman games are great, but if you've played one, you've played them all. Snatcher, if you could read Japanese, that's pretty cool that they put Snatcher on here, but unfortunately, there's no translation. And what else? I mean, there's a lot of really good games on here. I don't have a ton of experience with the PC Engine side of things because I just kind of tended to avoid them just based on the fact that they're not translated. But just look at real quick. I hear Nectaris is pretty good. Spriggan is supposed to be pretty good. What else? Superstar Soldier is supposed to be pretty good. Super Darius. Oh, Rondo of Blood is on here. Dracula X Rondo. They call it Akumaju Dracula X Chino Rondo. It's Castlevania, but it is an amazing Castlevania game. It is before they became the Metroidvania style that we know and love. Can't recommend that enough. The music is incredible in that game.
That's awesome.
So,
that's quite the lineup.
Yeah, it's a well put together package. It's just I really wish they focused a little bit more on localizations. So that's it for the mailbag. And unless you had anything else you wanted to just talk about real quick, that's it for the show.
No, don't order a PS5. Don't pre-order a PS5.
You're going to have Will come in on like Thursday, be like, well, pre-ordered a PS5.
Yeah, sucks to be you. Oh, man. Hopefully I'm not a dick about it. Yeah, I probably won't.
Well, I'm still going to attempt the Xbox tomorrow. Wish me luck. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's going to be a story for next week for sure.
Well, folks, stop on by our Discord room. Come in and say hi. Let us know if you're trying to get a PS5 or an Xbox as well. There's a link for that in our show notes. There's also a link if you go to our Twitter page or our Instagram page. You'll see something that says Linktree. Click on that. It has links to everything that we do, including our Discord room. Stop on by, say hello. Let us know if you got your PS5, if you got your Xbox One, or even if you're PC Master Race. Like, we welcome all.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. Other than that, www.wdgrpodcast.com. We'll see you next week, folks.
See ya.